And speaking of fucking funny, total props here. Nancy Pelosi. I really like Alex Perrine's take that with, obviously we have the rising millennial politicians. We have great people like AOC who are articulating a serious, robust class politics and revitalizing that tradition, then the only viable political tradition that we have. And then you have people, obviously people like Bernie Sanders, who are great and carried the flame, but even people who, unfortunately have not always carried the flame by a long shot, like Nancy Pelosi, but they still actually have a memory, institutionally even, of like, well, there was a time when it really was being a Democrat, for all of its flaws and compromises, there really was an element of like, this does mean that you actually fight and you look out for people who have real, actual, grounded concerns. And that's why in an environment like this, that and Perrine's point was that it leaves the Gen X politicians really flat-footed because they both are too young to have any real understanding and commitment to that political tradition, and they grew up in a context of boomers embracing, neoliberal politics. So they don't have either the sort of instinctive sense of it, nor the, just the material and social conditions that, of course, driven so many millennials to the left. But the boomer ones, like Nancy Pelosi, in this context, is the reason she quoted Justice Brandeis. It's a difference why there's a huge amount of work to be done and a lot of failures, but clearly progressives are starting to throw their weight around in the House a little bit. And she's someone that can be worked with at times, for sure. And it also leads to a burn like this. This is as close as, anybody that isn't Bernie Sanders or AOC, or maybe Sherrod Brown, or maybe or Elizabeth Warren or Sherrod Brown. I'll put those in a 4 separate category, or Rashida Tlaib, obviously. But most of the Democrats that we talk about, and obviously not Chuck Schumer, but not Dick Durbin, not any of these kinds of people, they usually are pretty flat-footed in dealing with Trump. This Nancy Pelosi burn she's at the White House. This is after Trump threw his tantrum. He said, "Are you going to fund the wall?" They said no. He walked out. Then he went on Twitter and whined. Now, you recall, I think it was yesterday, we played a clip of Trump, or maybe Friday, basically saying like, well, it's tough if you're a government worker, but, people figure things out. The both policy position of the Republican Party that wants to increase poverty and gut people's chances and increase human suffering. So the literal, like, you will figure it out as we kick you out of your home, make sure you don't have health care, and increase poverty and suffering in this country. But also the perspective of the, spoiled, ridiculous trust fund baby who all of his businesses were bailed out and his whole trust fund was set up by daddy, which is, of course, Trump. Nancy Pelosi nailed this. Let's check it out.
Few days, many federal workers will not be receiving their paychecks, and what that means in their lives is tragic in terms of their credit rating, paying their mortgage, paying their rent, paying their car payment, paying their children's tuition, and the rest. The president seems to be insensitive to that. He thinks maybe they could just ask their father for more money, but they can't.
Boom. That was fucking beautiful. Like, all props to Nancy Pelosi on that.
I put out a request for somebody to do a Thug Life video.
Thank you.
So Desmond Suga, I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Desmond Suga, I think so.
We're going to try this here.
Let's check it out.
The president seems to be insensitive to that. He thinks maybe they could just ask their father for more money, but they can't.
Wonder if I'm going to be on there.
Maybe we also want to touch on this. This is how
great.
Not to give Nancy Pelosi props. Like, don't do this, which is what the Daily Coast did.
What do they do?
They decided they wanted to do. So it says, this is Marcos wrote. But before we get to poo flinging, both internal and external, let's do something nice for once. We're going to take a page from some previous community efforts and welcome Nancy Pelosi with thousands of roses.
What?
So they gave 7,000. They delivered 7,000 roses to Pelosi's office, and then like a remaining like 18,000 to Walter Reed Hospital.
Okay.
Like that's
That's a little fucking weird.
Wasn't he the one who said it was so great that all the Bernie bros were flaming out because he was just like a personality that people loved and that people were getting too hung up on his personality?
He's been pretty out there.
Yeah, I know that he's, I mean, I don't know. He's totally, obviously, the only thing I know about Marcos in a current iteration is how stupid he is on Bernie. I know that site still has, some energy, and that's great, but I haven't read it in a long time. I haven't read it like literally since like before 2012.
Yeah.
Like it was, to me, it seems like it was of the Bush era.
There's another guy who writes for him. I see Armando saying stupid things online often too.
Yeah, I don't understand. It's
This
very
last paragraph
weird
is
that
good,
these
though.
people are so fixated on hating Bernie. It's bizarre.
According to Melitsas, he conducted an interview with Pelosi after this, which raises a question: how exactly do you conduct a fair and honest interview with someone you just gave thousands of roses to?
We're like, all right, now it's out of the way. Let's talk about Pago.
Yeah, Pago.
Yeah. Do you like how they smell? Is there any place you'd like us to put this? All right, now let's talk committee assignments.